You guys remember that story from last year about the Chinese spy balloon? Not just the spy balloon, though. There was something else up there in the sky that they ended up shooting down as well. You remember that? The UAPs? Canadian and US fighter jets were scrambled in a joint operation to shoot down an unidentified flying object in the skies above North America for the first time ever in our history. Do you remember that story? I'm not sure if you do. I'm not sure if anybody really does. Well, there's been a major update to it. And I haven't really heard anybody talking about it. It's all the buzz right now in the UFO community, of course, but outside of that, I'm not entirely sure if any of you have heard about it. But one of those objects has been recovered and is currently being exploited according to recently released documents from Canada, from a Canadian Freedom of Information Act request. Now, just about all of it still remains completely, entirely enshrouded in mystery, but this is the first tidbit of new information that we've gotten since the milestone historical shoot down events, of which there was a handful, since they happened. So we're going to take a look at them here, and I'll bring you up to speed on what that story was, what the shoot downs were, what they entailed, and more.
Another unidentified object shot down by American fighter jets, this time over Alaska. It comes less than a week after American planes took down that Chinese spy balloon off the coast of South Carolina.
Now the race is on to recover the wreckage as U.S. officials try to determine what it was that was flying over American airspace in northeastern Alaska.
We are also waiting for a Pentagon briefing for more on this story. But as you point out, Errol, many open questions now about the provenance of this latest object. We don't know who owns it. The object, quote, did not appear to have the ability to independently maneuver. He also mentioned that there was not a payload. So in that respect, those would seem to be two huge technical differences between this Chinese spy balloon and this object.
Also interesting to pay attention to what Kirby wouldn't say, what he wouldn't confirm, and the information he would not provide.
That's right.
So they're avoiding calling this a spy balloon. They just don't know.
On February 9, North American Aerospace Defense Command detected an object on ground radar and further investigated. The object was flying at an altitude of 40,000 feet and posed a reasonable threat to the safety of civilian flight. At the direction of the President of the United States, fighter aircraft successfully took down a high-altitude airborne object off the northern coast of Alaska at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. U.S. Northern Command is beginning recovery operations now. In terms of this particular object, we don't know where it's from. Dan.
When the pilots approached it, they determined that it was not manned. How did they determine that? And at that point, wouldn't it be possible to at least describe what they were looking at? Did it resemble a balloon or an airplane or what?
Again, we'll know more and have more information once we've recovered this.
We do not know who owns it. We just don't know.
One senior official describing it as cylindrical and silverish gray, and this object not maneuverable or propelled.
So you could see the verbiage being used during that press conference with Kirby, very dodgy, which you'd kind of expect, but I think at the very least it's indicative that these objects that were shot down, sure, they may not be alien extraterrestrial UFOs, but there's certainly something representative of probably high technology, carefully guarded. And if you recall, in my last coverage, 2023 Aerial Incursions, I think the video was called, where I talked about this story before we got these new documents I'm about to show you, I told you about the guy on YouTube. If you recall, he was up in Alaska at the exact area or region of the coast near Dead Horse where they actually shot the UAP down. And I think now in the documents they're referring to it as UAP number 20. We'll check that together in just a second. And he recorded the whole thing. He put it up on YouTube proudly. He was like, he knew he had gold too, if you recall. It was like 11 minutes of great footage of this crash recovery, this UAP crash recovery. And I don't use that term lightly, guys, because in my previous coverage. I'm going to say that again and again because these videos, they build on each other. We covered the actual report released by one of the NORAD commanders. I forget his name at the time. It was an official press release or report that he himself released outlining, you know, what went down with these shoot downs. And in it, he uses the acronym UAP specifically, right? So not only is this an indication of like a broader paradigm shift on this topic of UAPs, which we've seen really accelerating in 2017, like this new push for disclosure, whether it's a psyop, blue beans, or real, doesn't matter. The fact is the gears are turning in ways that they haven't in the last century when it comes to transparency on the topic and so on. I mean, for God's sakes, we just had last year, like I said, this very story is representative of that paradigm change. I mean, we just shot down multiple UAPs, and they're calling them UAPs. They're not hiding the fact that it crashed. They're not hiding any of that. They're hiding what came after it, of course. But just the very fact that these are mentioned plainly in the mainstream media and covered relentlessly for days, nearly a week, it says something. So let me bring you up to speed in a bit of a smoother fashion here. I've got this in front of me, a breakdown. So shortly after U.S. fighter jets shot the Chinese surveillance balloon out of the sky, you remember the one that captivated us for like a week, and we let lazily drift across the Midwest over multiple nuclear armaments, like military facilities, nuclear armaments housed there. It's crazy. We let it drift across the entire country. But anyway, right after the Chinese surveillance balloon got shot out of the sky, the military had supposedly adjusted the sensitivity of their radar systems. At least that's what they're saying, right? So this Chinese surveillance balloon gets detected. It's clearly what seems to be a lapse in security, right? From at least to us, right? That are not really in the know, the average person. And the military is saying, basically after we saw that, we're like, oh shit, what else could be up there that we might have been missing this whole time, right? So they went ahead and adjusted their radar systems. And immediately what they were looking for after that adjustment was smaller or larger sized slow-moving objects at high altitude, which their previous sensitivities, I guess, didn't really allow for, right? So anyway, after that sensitivity, multiple radar returns came back. Unidentified high-altitude objects were detected over North America. And you can actually, all the show notes for this, as always, is going to be over on my Substack, right? All the sources. It isn't published yet, but it will be. Actually, no, it probably will be by, yeah, I'll hit publish, like when I finish streaming this. But all of it's going to be here, right? So follow me on Substack, memoryhold.substack.com, for show notes, articles, essay, things along those lines. Let's continue here. Oh, here's Justin Trudeau's announcement of the same object we're talking about. Like I said, we're talking about the Dead Horse UAP shoot town, but there was more than one. Remember that. There was more than one shoot town. There was one over Lake Huron. There was one over the Yukon. There was the Dead Horse one. So it was either 3 or 4. I can't quite remember, so we'll fact check that here in just a moment. But this is what we're looking at here, is the official announcement Justin Trudeau made on February 11th after the shoot down of this object. Quote, I ordered the takedown of an unidentified object that violated Canadian airspace. Then he tags NORAD Command. NORAD Command shot down the object over the Yukon. Canadian and U.S. aircraft were scrambled, and a U.S. F-22 successfully fired at the object. So my apologies, that announcement is actually about the object shot over the Yukon. You see how this can get kind of confusing. In fact, to rid yourself of that confusion, you could just go to the wiki page, list of high altitude object events in 2023. So Trudeau, that was a separate object, but nonetheless, this was part of that same spat of shoot downs that took place over the course of a few days after the Chinese spy balloon. Here's a map for your consideration. Let's bring this up. Hold on. Why is my stuff malfunctioning? Just trying to open this image. Okay, whatever. As you can see the map on your screen here, February 10th, UAP was shot down over Dead Horse, Alaska. February 11th, a UAP was shot down, Yukon, Canada. February 12th, another one was shot over Lake Huron. And then February 4th, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And what they're talking about there, I believe that would be the Chinese spy balloon. So that's not a UAP. The reason it's over the coast is it drifted through the Midwest, but what they did was allow it to go across the, because they didn't want to risk, this is what they say, shooting down the balloon, having the debris come down and hurt the plebs below and such, right? So they waited for it to drift out to sea. But that's that. So really the objects we're looking at primarily are these three: Lake Huron, Yukon, Dead Horse. So like I said earlier, these documents are the first pieces of new information that we've got on this story since the shootdowns themselves. And even still, the other events, this is just regarding one event, the documents. We have 335 pages of new information that give us, confirm some things we suspected, but also gives us some mysteries of their own in a way. In other words, you know, we get some answers, but with those answers come more questions. So anyway, they're still largely enshrouded in mystery despite these new documents and images, actually, which we'll get to. But as far as I can tell, I want to give credit to the people that obtained these documents first and foremost, which as far as I can tell was Daniel Otis of CTV News, because he posted about it over on X. Take a look here. You can follow him at DSotis. He posts this: an image of the unidentified object shot down over Canada's Yukon territory in February 2023 has been released. So he's working all the UAP shootdowns. The documents he got pertains mostly to the Dead Horse one, but it has some details about all the shootdown events. But I believe it was a X-user, according to these guys, X-user AltreonZ, that initially put in the Canadian Freedom of Information Act request that gave us the documents to begin with. So, you know, props to him and whoever else. And of course, you can watch my old coverage on this from earlier this year. I think it was earlier this year. 2023 aerial incursions, UAP shot down over Alaska, crash recovery caught on camera. If you missed it, that's a really good breakdown of this entire story. So anyway, going to the shootdown, shortly after, you know, these radars were adjusted to have a greater sensitivity to slow-moving, high-altitude objects, and shortly after this Chinese surveillance balloon was shot out of the sky, the sensitivities were changed, and they very promptly identified additional objects in the sky that they hadn't resolved before, right? So they dispatched Canadian and US forces at different points to address these objects. And the one we're talking about primarily is Dead Horse, right? So on February 9th, a high altitude object the size of a small car was detected entering US airspace over Alaska. And I forget the, what is it? Beaufort Sea. Yeah, on February 9th, a high-altitude object the size of a small car was detected entering U.S. airspace near Alaska, and on February 10th, the object was shot down by an F-22 fighter jet over the Beaufort Sea. Below is a snapshot of the map, so you can see exactly what part of Alaska the object was shot down over. In this case, it was shot down over Dead Horse, and as you can say, and will say, you could just go to the Substack, and with the show notes, you also get these visual aids. I put my own articles and stuff sometimes before the show notes, so there's unique content to Substack that you won't find elsewhere. But here is the image of the actual map where it was shot down. Dead Horse, this is Alaska. And, you know, I'm sure you know where your own country is and your own states. So, continuing here. This is the same, I don't know if you guys remember, but this actually is the same object, the one shot over Dead Horse, that was filmed by that guy on YouTube who was working right near Dead Horse, actually, at the time. So the military shoots this fucking bleep blorp UAP out of the sky above this guy just trying to do his job, and he gets a front row seat to the entire recovery operation. That's literally what happened. I mean, don't get me wrong, front row seats really means like more than 1 mile away or whatever, but close enough to see the incredible maneuvers and behaviors of like the heavy artillery, like the big guns, not literally, the helicopters, the aerial, the planes, the refueling. They had to refuel while they were in there. Fighter jets, they were circling the area. I'll play clips of it for you in a moment. The same object we got documents on now was the same one filmed by that guy on YouTube. Here, let me jog your memory because it's a good video to watch. So if you go to the Esoteric Matters YouTube channel, you can see, oh, let me see. Yeah, you can see the video here. There's not many videos on this. It's a new channel, but apparently this one picked up steam because of the recent news. It's got 3,000 and the channel's brand new. But here it is. It's about 11 minutes, 10 minutes and 31 seconds. So we're not going to watch the whole thing, but I do want you to see some of it just to give you an example of what was going on in the fallout, in the wake of this event, right? This is a highly unique event, and it was just kind of forgotten about. This guy recorded it, and some interesting shit happened after he uploaded it. But let me show you what it is first. I'll skip around a bit.
I am as close as you can get on land to the location of the object that was shot down by the U.S. military.
Oh, my bad. Hold on.
They believe our...
That's my fault.
I am as close as you can get on land to the location of the object that was shot down by the U.S. military on the north coast of Alaska. So this is all ice, actually. Sea ice right here. This is the Arctic Ocean. And I'll show a little picture of the flight tracker of the C-130 that's burning circles out here over the ice, over what we presume is the location of this object. I'll put that on the screen so you guys can see it, and I'll put a little red dot for as close as I can get to it and show you where I'm at. I think they shot down over there should be recoverable.
So that's pretty interesting point. What he said right there is all of that we're looking at on the screen is solid ice. And he, not like he's an expert or anything, but he basically said that, according to him, right, he believes that due to how solid that ice is out there, it's likely that the object would be able to be recoverable by the military. And that's what he said here.
Heard jets flying over, and we've seen a Black Hawk helicopter fly out over the ice, so they're definitely out there somewhere.
It's kind of creepy. Out in the mist, dude. They're somewhere out in the mist. Wide open. Nothing obstructing your vision, but you can't see them through the mist. Meanwhile, fucking crazy operation is going down. So anyway, you heard it yourself. What he was saying there was like Black Hawk helicopters, all these different crazy pieces of like, equipment and crafts are being hauled into this area in response, following the shoot down of this object, right? Which is pretty unprecedented. We've heard about these, but they're usually confined to conspiracy forums. Roswell, that you read about as a kid, right? This is a live time. I'm not saying it's actual alien UFO, but the point is things don't get shot out of the sky every day, let alone more than one, let alone two, let alone three, maybe four. And even more rarely do they call them UAPs.
This is what it looks like. It's about 17 below and kind of cloudy, but they'll find whatever it is, I'm sure. All right, guys. I'm back in my room now, the North Slope. That's what it looks like. All the stuff that we've...
So he's just documenting his time there. He's on the job. Note that.
Nice. To do whatever they're doing, then to pick up some small little car-sized object seems kind of strange, but there's a lot of stuff going on.
So he's commenting on the amount of machinery being, hauled out there, the helicopters, the planes being refueled in the sky. He's basically like, how big is this object? It seems like an awful lot of machinery to be out there for a small size object. Here, it's a good point.
Flying out, just we see and hear more information. There's definitely a lot of military activity going on up here, and there's a lot more helicopters flying out over the ice to do whatever they're doing than to pick up some small little car-sized object. Seems kind of strange, but there's a lot of stuff going on. Stay tuned. All right, here's some of the photos of what we're seeing up here. Pretty crazy military activity. The whole reason I made this video is kind of draw some attention to my YouTube channel.
Yeah, check that out. Look, you see? Interesting. And sometimes, I'm no professional, but I'm slightly above casual when it comes to, I guess, this type of stuff, if that's even a way to put it. I guess what I'm saying is you can sometimes tell the nature of like an operation or endeavor or like a movement based on the type of equipment being sent over there, right? for instance, the fact that they were refueling in the sky above the site tells us a few things. From a layman's perspective, and if one of you can prove this wrong, please go ahead. But like from a layman's perspective, I'm thinking, okay, maybe that means they're going to be up there for a while. Well, if they're going to be up there for a while, aka not returning to base or going to get refueled or whatever, that tells me there's something worthwhile. There's something, as he said, recoverable. Okay, there's something worth staying there for. In my layman's perspective, I'm not like I'm not a military commander, sir. Yes, sir. I know everything about crash bleep blorps and Black Hawk. I'm not, I don't know, but just my 2 cents.
Activity. The whole reason I made this video is kind of draw some attention to my YouTube channel. So if you guys want,
here's the other thing. He's literally saying part of the reason I made this channel, as he's showing the first ever images of a UAP crash recovery, right? Whether it's aliens or not, he's like, yo, like, share, and subscribe. Dope new YouTube channel, trying to grow. He's trying to build his YouTube channel. This was like one of his first videos, and I can relate to that. I'm still trying to build my channel after like 7 years. P.S. Like, share, and subscribe, right? So that's what he's doing here, but that's important. I'll show you why later.
The whole reason I made this video is kind of draw some attention to my YouTube channel. So if you guys want to check it out, Backcountry Alaska, it's everything I do up here. Thanks.
All right, guys. Here's something going on right here.
So it might be hard to see if you're on a small screen, but there's a big airplane over there, and it's gonna hurt your ears. You can barely hear him talking, which is why I'm talking.
You guys see those lights on the horizon? Might be hard to see. That's where I took the TikTok out on the edge of the hard coast yesterday. C-130.
Very windy, sorry. So he's calling out a C-130. The C-130 is approaching him, basically.
Right there. It's flying way high. I don't know what that is, but the C-130 is going to come right over the top of us. Shit.
He says the C-130 is going to come right over the top of us, so let's check that.
Working.
Here it is.
Totally military C-130 flying out over the ice right now.
That's so dope, though, man.
There it goes. Definitely not a cargo plane. Our cargo C-130s up here are painted white.
Very interesting.
Headed out over the ice. Boom. Crazy.
So let's just go ahead and skip around more. I really want you guys to feast your eyes on this, but I'll drop in another 2 to 3 minutes.
On a polar route to Europe or anything.
Oh, check. Okay, here's the jets doing some circles.
Down here. How many more? I don't think so. Yeah, so I'm starting to think this isn't a military or civilian jet. So it's coming on a straight line all day, and it just took this big hard turn to the left, which is not the direction that all this activity's been going on.
I'm actually not sure if it's a fighter jet, but anyway.
But, who knows? I'm gonna put this in the YouTube video also. Let me know what you guys think. Big hard left. Definitely not on a polar route to Europe or anything. Russia, whoever. Damn, I'm gonna be kind of
So it looks like either a plane or a helicopter off in the distance, real small.
far away for this, but there goes the Black Hawk.
It's a Black Hawk, okay.
There it goes. Definitely kind of flying straight east. So what they're doing. But I'm going to put a little clip in here. I took over the ice in the same direction. C-130 just took off. Date 9:46 a.m. C-130 just took off. Right off of Dead Horse Airport, it looks like. Flew right over the top of me. Definitely a military C-130. Flew directly out over the ice in the same direction all this activity's been going on. So there's definitely still stuff going on. Don't know what they're doing. But I'm going to put a little clip in here. I took a 2-minute video or something, so I'll put the rest of it on my YouTube channel if you guys want to watch the full video of it flying over. But just a single C-130. So
once again, he plugs his YouTube channel, right? And he puts the text of his YouTube channel name, Backcountry Alaska YouTube, on there because he wants to grow it.
There's also this
a jet streak way high right now, but I think that just might be a polar route commercial jet. But anyway, here are painted white.
Okay. Live above Prudhoe Bay. What the fuck is going on around here, dude?
It's your future. Your future's going on around here, dude.
There is some crazy crap going on around here. Super exciting. Nothing fun ever happens at work. Don't see anything over there. But yeah,
Dude,
that ain't civilian.
Sundog.
Let me know in the comments what you guys think. This is crazy.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this guy's just burning circles above Prudhoe Bay here. Way high.
Another aircraft way high up doing circles, apparently.
Just burning circles above us. High altitude. Beautiful sundog.
Ah, yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot that he called out the sundog. Look at that. That is beautiful.
Let me know what you guys think. Okay, guys. For one, this is a super beautiful sundog. Super beautiful.
Dude, I gotta respect anyone that like takes a risk by like on the clock while at work filming a UAP crash recovery for like what I believe and many people believe to be like a significant story in the making, right? Still largely enshrouded in secret, but he stops mid-video to ensure that we all get to see that dope example of nature, a sundog over the whole thing. Respect. Anyway, that guy, he ended up deleting his YouTube channel. Somebody that was so excited, hey guys, like, share, and subscribe. I'm gonna put this on YouTube. I'm gonna put that on YouTube. I'm gonna. He suddenly deletes his best performing video that was getting tens of thousands of views, and it was an important video because let's think about it. None of this, technically, this video isn't about aliens, extraterrestrials, interdimensional, anything other than humans, right? The fact is, they shot something down above Alaska, 2 objects, another one over Lake Huron, and it's not me calling them UAPs. It's the authorities. It's the establishment. It's NORAD that's calling them UAPs. It's Justin Trudeau who's calling them UAPs and tweeting about them. Well, excuse me, unidentified flying object is what he said. Okay, so it's not me. So don't get mad at me about that. They used it in the official documentation, and whatever, something significant happened. Because number one, like large-scale events like this, not large-scale, but like live munitions above the continental United States, not once, but like multiple times, blam, blam, blam. Following an already anomalous story of the Chinese spy balloon. Very strange. All our eyes were glued to the sky because of the Chinese spy balloon. Right? That dominated the news headlines for a week. People were filming it as, posting Snapchats on social media, videos on social media. Well, look at the Chinese spy balloon, dude. Wow, it's sucking up my data, dude. Yeah, it's sucking up my data, dude. And, and we're all looking up, and then the establishment is just kind of like, all right, now look at this. And they just... It's kind of a mind fuck, right? Like a sudden infliction of not trauma, but like a sudden infliction of like, oh shit, okay, so there are unidentified objects up there. Because we're all looking at the TV, glued to the screen, looking at the skies, looking for the balloon, and that's when you shot down UAPs. I mean, it's incredible to me, and then I'll leave it here and continue. It's incredible to me that our radars could be made any more sensitive than they should have already been following the, I don't know, targeted attack on the Pentagon with like a Boeing commercial airliner that managed to just fly unimpeded, unmolested into the most allegedly secure part of the United States. I would figure that our sensitivity of the radar systems after something like that, something terrible like that, they would be cranked up. Crank it up, baby. Cranked up like some galaxy gas and a zoomer. Cranked up like a zoomer on galaxy gas, But no, apparently it took a Chinese spy balloon to make them as sensitive as they should be to catch like large vehicle-sized unidentified flying objects just like chilling, this is all things that we should expect, right? And by the way, I do want to say the image on the thumbnail to the left, to the left, it's not, I don't know, the origin of it is dubious. I don't know, maybe you guys can find it, but on the subreddit, the UFO subreddit, that image, somebody posted it, and initially, I guess, it was posted as being like a leaked image of the Alaska UAP. But I doubt that to be true. But last I checked, people had issues finding the origin. To be completely fair, I haven't bothered to track it down. I just thought it was like a perfect photo representing this story. So, okay, rambling over. I'm getting better at keeping these short. Let's continue on with the story here. So, regarding the nature of the object itself, it was described as being cylindrical, silver in color, and appearing to float. Fighter jets were scrambled, of course, and they conducted 2 flypasts on the object. One on the evening of February 9th and another in the morning on February 10th. F-35 fighter jet pilots that were deployed to visually inspect the object determined that the object was uncrewed, meaning it was unmanned, it had no pilot, right? So this was an unmanned aerial vehicle that seemed to float. Metallic, silver in color. A source that was apparently briefed on the intelligence, this is coming from CNN, they said that the pilots came back, that did the flypast, they came back with differing tales, differing testimony of what they had seen, this is like one of the more curious aspects of this story, and why I think it adds another layer to an already significant story. Like I said, a shoot down of this magnitude is a pretty big deal, right? It's history making in one way or another, alien or otherwise, right? So they came back with differing accounts. They did their flypass, and interestingly, I don't know if it was just one pilot or if it was more than one, but one pilot or some pilots came back from these flypasts on this UAP over Alaska and reported that the instrumentation, their onboard instrumentation of the fighter jets themselves, were malfunctioning, were on the fritz when they got near that bleep blorp, whatever the heck it was, right? And I don't know if it's true or if it's just like a cringe type of cliche, but I've heard that like radar jamming is a sort of act of war in itself, right? So in other words, maybe it was a coincidence that this pilot and his instrumentation failed, but I highly doubt that, right? Because we've heard so much testimony about similar instances exactly like this in the past. But the tricky thing is here, though, that no other pilot reported disruptions to their instrumentation while in close proximity to the craft. It's just that one testimony where one pilot did experience that, that stands out. And I think it's like, you shouldn't drop it, right? Because of the eerie familiarity with many other instances. For example, I think back to the 1976 Tehran UFO incident. There's declassified. I think I actually have them for Patreon subscribers in the MH library. If you just scroll down on Patreon, little as $1 a month, these documents, declassified ones, about the Iran incident, fighter jets were scrambled, right? And the UFO did its normal UFO things, but every time they tried to fire a Sidewinder missile at it, it was in the moments he was just about to pull the trigger, not the moments where he removed the case or what, the few seconds it took to do that, only the moment where he's about to move his thumb down. And he said his systems would fail, right? And then he said like his compass, his readings, they would go off the charts in close proximity. The old story, right? You guys know it. You guys know the story I'm talking about. If not, just look at the general effects on the environment as told by like UFO witnesses, close encounters, Rendlesham Forest being one, like stuff like that, right? PSYOPs or not. So this is an article from ABC. U.S. shoots down unknown high-altitude object over Alaska. We know the story, but let's catch up here. I gave you a brief description, and we're going to circle around to the documents.
This hour, dramatic new details about the unidentified object shot down by fighter jets just miles off the coast of Alaska yesterday. Unlike the Chinese spy balloon shot down last Saturday, this object demanded more immediate action yesterday. Officials say it was flying much lower at 40,000 feet, making it a dangerous potential threat to civilian aircraft. But now we are learning that U.S. military pilots who approached the craft have given conflicting accounts of what they saw. This new reporting coming in now from CNN national security reporter Natasha Bertrand. Natasha, so this is interesting. This is kind of unusual that these pilots saw different things, and that is sort of, I guess, adding to the mystery of all this.
Yeah, not even the pilots apparently were really able to identify what they saw. And just to take you back for a sec, on Thursday, the U.S. defense officials sent F-35 fighter jets up to try to figure out what this object was that was flying around near Alaska. Those pilots, we have learned, have given very conflicting accounts of what they actually experienced.
So I don't know, I would be curious to see how often that happens. Like, how often doing a routine fly past. Like, I'm sure this is not the first time these pilots have been like engaged in a way to like identify another, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how often it happens. Maybe it doesn't happen and I'm wrong. Totally open to it. Leave a comment below. If you have information on this, teach the rest of the class. But I just find it interesting that the reports, they're trained observers. And I find it interesting that it didn't come back with a consistent story, right? And that one group might have seen something different or experienced something different than another group. Of course, it's possible. I mean, you're moving at super like high speeds, and you're looking at an object like, God knows what it looked like from a distance, and the distance they were viewing it from. So don't get me wrong, I totally understand how something like that could be possible. But nonetheless, I just thought it's worth throwing in, because I don't know how consistent they usually, I think they usually are consistent with what they've seen. But in this case, no. As you can see, like, all these little oddities about the case, they stack up, is my point, which is why it's important for reasons beyond just the fact that something was shot down, whether it's a Chinese drone, whether it's a goddamn DARPA project gone rogue, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's pretty important. But there's oddities, these weird little bits and pieces of the story that make you go, what's that about? What's that about?
The object interfered with the plane's sensors. Other pilots saying that they didn't really experience that. Other pilots saying that when they looked at the object, they could identify no identifiable propulsion system, and they did not know how it was actually staying in the air, cruising at that altitude of about 40,000 feet. So this has all added to the Pentagon's wariness of describing in more detail what this object actually is until they can get more information through the debris that they are recovering right now.
And what do we know about the efforts to recover the wreckage of this second object? It looks like...
Yeah, here we go. Listen to this. What are the details about the recovery? Remember, after this was shot down, they're basically like, yep, okay, it's time to recover. Sir, yes, sir. Let's get out on the ice. Let's get out on the ice and get us that recovery, that aircraft, whatever we shot down. And they just kind of went quiet after that, right? Because that's where you get into, like, foreign material recovery, you know what I'm saying? Because if it's high technology, they're going to clamp down on that scene real quick. You're going to have a bad day. If you're a farmer where a goddamn satellite fell down onto, dude, you're having a bad day. If you're a farmer, you better hope a Russian satellite doesn't fall into your backyard. Do you like your family? Jesus. But seriously, you can see why that guy had his video deleted. Oh yeah, and he gave an official reason for that, his YouTube video. I had to delete the video because I didn't want my boss to see that I was goofing off at work. Bro, you wouldn't have recorded like video over a prolonged period of time and and you're saying it didn't dawn on you once that it might have been a bad idea to do that. Like, you would have thought about it and stopped recording, but instead you kept coming back to recording a video over a period of days, hours, right? You saw the video. There's cuts over time. He gave updates. Now I went to bed. Now it's the morning. Look and he's pointing out like super secret shit. Like the Chinese are watching, the Russian are watching. Let's pretend it is alien. If it's not alien, let's pretend it's something high technology that the Chinese would like, the Russians would like, the US would like. Just make it up. It's high technology. It takes precedent in terms of recovery. The Chinese are watching how we're recovering this. How do we transport this shit? Where do we bring it to? Why do you think Area 51 and stuff like that was like secret for so long? It's not on the maps, right? All those stories that probably are true. They walk into a hangar. The hangar's empty. It's huge. Then all of a sudden the floor opens up and they go down like into the depths of the earth, like the size of the World Trade Center underground. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a reason for that. This is like crazy top secret maneuvers here, as much as you can, I don't know, clamp down on such a thing. People are going to see planes and flight traffic. People are going to see that. They're going to be caught on film. But I have a feeling there was a friendly knock on the door, and they probably told this guy, can you kindly remove the video? Look, it's sensitive, whatever. Because, you know, he did comment, he's alive. It's nothing like that. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be aliens for the secrecy to make sense. But anyway, the secrecy did prevail for like an entire year, especially when the recovery set in. And now we have new information on the recovery, which I'm going to get to. Matter of fact, I should probably get to that now, right? Yeah, let's do it now. All right, let me pull that up. So, in short, like what the documents actually show and confirm is the February 2023 UAP that was shot down over Dead Horse, Alaska, that you saw in the YouTube video that they were trying to recover. It involved a metallic floating object that was intercepted and later recovered. The logs that are included in these documents show that the object was identified as a UAP by Major Pandy at AADS MCC, with the recovery operations captured in real time, which we can see, right? But here's the three most important parts. There's maybe four most important parts that you get out of the documents, out of these 335 pages of documents. The key points. Number one, UAP number 20, as far as I can tell, the Dead Horse, Alaska object, that is UAP number 20. It was shot down. It's confirmed there was something shot down, and they're calling it UAP number 20, right? Here, let me show you here. UAP number 20, okay, the same one, was recovered. And not only that, this is the crazy part, was recovered and is currently being exploited. I'm about to show you and prove to you, using primary sources, the documents themselves, that that's true, or at least it's what they said. And then the third key point here is they contradict these reports. They contradict previous public statements made by people like Prime Minister Trudeau, as well as other authoritative entities, that suggested that none of the February UAPs had been recovered. And you can look this up. There's a wiki page for like each of these shoot downs. 2023 Alaska high altitude object. You can find it here. Sorry about that. And they might have updated it by now, but let's see. Recovery operations. So this is how the Wikipedia, the mainstream narrative, describes the recovery operations that took place after they shot down this object over Dead Horse, Alaska. The object landed, the object landed on the frozen sea off of Dead Horse near the Prudhoe Bay oil field in the territorial waters of the U.S. A Department of Defense official said it broke into pieces. That's kind of important. In UFO lore, you know, we've seen that pop up, leaving pieces behind for one reason or another. The U.S. Navy, the Coast Guard, and the FBI all participated in efforts to recover the object. Search and rescue aircraft such as the CH-47 Chinook, the HC-130, what is that? Is that the no, I don't know that. And the H-860 Pavehawk were used in the effort. So that's where our guy comes in, our YouTube star, Backcountry Alaska. He was filming a lot of all this because, well, people are going to see it that are in the vicinity, and I'm glad that he filmed it. It's pretty cool to watch them at work, right? Anyway, it continues. It remains unclear who owned the object. Okay. On February 11th, U.S. Northern Command said they had no new information to share about the capabilities, purpose, or origin of the object, and that recovery operations continued but were affected by weather conditions, Arctic weather conditions, such as wind chill, snow, and daylight hours. A Pentagon spokesman said on the same day that recovery teams were collecting the debris on top of the ice. U.S. divers and unmanned underwater vehicles retrieved additional debris. But here it is. On February 8th, 2023, it was reported that the search for the object shot down over Dead Horse had been abandoned. Now, what these documents prove is the contrary. It wasn't abandoned. There was an object that was shot down, and they did recover it. And not only that, they're exploiting it as we speak, among other things. So let's take a look at the documents here. I'll show you them. Like I said, we can't go through all of it. 335 pages. Now, luckily you can, I believe, Control F. You can search through this document. Right now, I'm on PC, and I personally use this application called Drawboard PDF. It's pretty cool, because I like to annotate my stuff. But, you know, it's pretty lengthy. It gives you articles, media, reporters' questions, real-time data capture, like interesting stuff. But the key points I told you before is basically what it proves. And to be honest, I don't have enough time. I don't have the brain power or energy to go through like every fine detail of this, because it's quite complicated and it covers mostly stuff we already know. And it's already been close to an hour, so, you know, it's self-explanatory. But here's the original tweet or post on X by Nick Gold. I guess he was the first to share these documents. And he tags Atreon Z, the guy that got the documents from the government. Thanks to Atreon Z's request that led to the new batch of February 2023 UAP shoot-down docs from Canada, and D. Sotis's work for securing the related memo to Trudeau. Let's pull that up. It appears to be confirmed that UAP-20 was Dead Horse, Alaska. So when these were released, I mean, there was some confusion as to, because they call it UAP-20, UAP-21, 23, or whatever, and they're not sure which one was referring to which. So there was a little bit of like confusion, I guess you could say. But it's important now, these new documents and the memo, they all confirm that UAP-20 was Dead Horse, Alaska. And why is that important? Because it's UAP-20 that was shot down, recovered, and is being exploited, according to these documents. So anyway, he talks about in the memo, they're saying it's a metallic floating object. And guys, check this out. This is a really interesting piece of information. A ground station that was tasked with some degree of involvement in this incursion, this aerial incursion. A ground station seems to have switched over to diesel backups prior to the engagement of this UAP. Now that is pretty telling, because where have we heard that one before? I mean, that fits right in with UAP or UAP UFO lore, right? Electrical disruptions, the lights going out, the radio suddenly cackling. You go outside, what's going on? What's going on? Light beams, you're floating, you're gone, dude, you're gone. Right? Your car shuts down. What's that about? What's that about? Big ass football field V-shaped object coming at you, quiet. Silent voice beams into your head, telling you how gay you are. You know what I mean? We all know the signs. Power outages, electrical disruptions. So they don't outright say that in the documents, but take a look. They literally say that a ground station had to switch to diesel on orders prior to the engagement of the UAP. Crazy shit. Here's some screenshots he attached. So here's the proof right here that it was a metallic airborne floating object. ANR was, I mean, there's lots of abbreviations here. Classified as a UAP, intercepted, identified as metallic airborne floating object. Discussions are ongoing. Plan approved by CCO for possible intercept of UAP-20. Right, so you see how they abbreviate that, and it's a good idea to know which one that actually is, right, if you're looking into this. So these communications continue. I'm not going to read it all out. There's a bunch, you know, you can see for yourself. And like I said, the link's going to be on the Substack, so you can read through this yourself. It's a PDF. Dimension centered on Dead Horse, Alaska. Surface to FL600, not pushing NOTAM, ATT, will go on chat, blah, blah, blah. All this jargon, you know? There's still redactions, too, of course. And look at this. This is where it gets interesting. CANR SODO called 1910Z and directed to shut everything off. I'm guessing he means power here. Back on commercial power. Like, that's just, you know what I mean? I sound like silly trying to read this out because it's all jargon. But the fact is that when you translate it, the general consensus around these documents is that it's stating that these ground stations had to switch to diesel backups. And people in the UFO community know damn well, you know, all these stories about electrical disruptions because of UAPs, cars shutting down when it flies by and then reactivating, you know, resuming normalcy after they leave the vicinity, so on and so forth. It's the oldest thing, you know, this was a pattern that was seen like pretty, not right away, but pretty close to it. So to make sense a little bit of these documents, I want to give credit to this guy or girl, Dice Done, on the R UFOs, the subreddit on Reddit. The Alaskan UAP number 20 was recovered and is currently being exploited. They put it together quite nicely. He says that through this document, we can conclude that UAP 20 is referring to the Dead Horse Alaskan object, the one over the Beaufort Sea. And then they give their sources here. They link the Wikipedia and says, quote, here we can see the date and time the object was allegedly shot down, which was around 10:45 a.m. AKST, right? So let's go to Wiki and fact check that, right? Look at that. At around 10:45 a.m., February 10th, the object was shot down. Okay, that lines up. Then the poster then says, this matches up with this log of the new documents regarding UAP 20 being shot down. And it lines up with the logs from the interception taking action. And I guess how the action was being taken around 7:04 p.m. Here, you can look. They highlight it. And that's the redacted part. In other words, what this poster is saying, and it kind of makes sense to me, is that the time actually lines up quite well. Like, of course, that's the stuff that's still going to be top secret, you know? And that time frame lines up. Continuing, he says, or they say, this is further supported by a reporter's question labeling the Alaska UAP as number 20. Although I guess that reporter didn't get a response. And these documents include the reporter's questions. And this is the question. The Yukon object was UAP number 23. The object shot down near Alaska was UAP number 20. So, was the object shot down over Lake Huron, number 21 or number 22? Does this mean another unpublicized UAP was also detected? And then I guess that's who they were representing, RCAF. But they never got a response. But because this question was asked and because this question reveals that this reporter was referring to the Dead Horse UAP as UAP 20, that's big news because that ties and confirms together that UAP 20 was recovered, exploited, right? Being exploited. So continuing here with this great analysis by Dice Done. Now, while the recovery and exploitation mission of UAP 20 isn't available, we are able to see the plan for UAP 23. This is pretty cool. Check this. Here, it clearly says that exploitation will begin once the UAP has been recovered. We could pretty safely assume this would also be the case for the other shoot down event, the other object, UAP 20. And he attaches this sliver here, that outlines that process of recovery. Scheme of maneuver. Once recovered, CF Intcom will coordinate CAF intelligence support to DRDC for exploitation of the object. You keep going down. And then he also attaches this document here. And I guess he added this letter last minute. And it's from a Canadian MP regarding the DRDC, right? So the one mentioned in that little snippet there. Basically what he says is, as Minister of National Defense, you may not be aware, Defense Research and Development Canada, DRDC, has participated in efforts to analyze UAP, which is publicly traceable to circa 1950. So he kind of finishes off the post. So with all this being said, based on this Trudeau memo leak, it appears that UAP number 20, the Alaskan UAP shot down over Dead Horse, was recovered and is currently being exploited by the United States. And there it is. This is the sliver of the document confirming this, guys. The object shot down over Dead Horse, which we now know is that 23. The object's 23's function, method of propulsion, or affiliation to any nation state remains unverified. That's a separate shoot down. But the full exploitation of UAP 20, the one over Dead Horse, Alaska, the one that was engaged by the US on February 10, 2023, has not yet been fully completed, but they're talking about it. So that's fucking crazy. You see why that might be important? The public acknowledgement that like a UAP was shot down. We don't know what it is. We're calling it UAP. A guy caught the crash recovery on camera, so we know that's not like totally made up out of thin air. And then the subsequent document, the erasure of his YouTube, and then these subsequent documents basically saying, yeah, we recovered the shit and we're trying to exploit it. That's crazy. As I've said before, I'll say it again, the UAP topic is being teed up to be some wild, like it's a game changer. And if you can't see that that agenda is gaining steam, I don't know what to tell you. Regardless of what you believe about them, it really doesn't matter because the gears are turning in that realm. And I don't know what the end game is. I don't know what the ultimate game plan is. Something tells me it's not as simple as the government's scared to reveal aliens, right? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Doesn't matter. The fact is something was shot down. There was a year of secrecy. We now know that they're still calling it a UAP. They didn't come out and say, oh, it actually turned out to be a balloon. It turned out to be a big custom drone. No, it's a UAP. We shot it down, and we're trying to exploit it because it offers something to us. Because it's high technology. Question is, ours, man's? Or is it one of those pesky bleep blorps zipping around our skies?